wait a second. Hey, voice, wait a second. Can I say something? And that choice and that step for me to be able to say, I'm allowed to do that was so powerful that I could say, oh, I actually can program my mind to do whatever I want and think whatever I want, because I hit so many rock bottoms and it was dark, gloomy, lonely, horrible, and I just knew I had to keep hanging in one day. I just didn't even know how to hang in 1 hour, just let alone a day. So it really helped me know that I can program my thinking and my thoughts in a healthy way. And when I was able to do that, I was like, oh gosh, I have to share this. I never knew about this world. I read a few personal development books, but it was just information. And now I had the experience, the lived experience, and I was like, I want to share this.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Illuminating Dialogues number 19, where I have the pleasure of talking to Gagandeep Kaur today. How are you doing, Gagandeep?
I'm doing good. Nice to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and spending this Monday evening on the podcast with me.
Yep, I'm excited to see how the conversation flows and read the comments of everybody else who resonates with them. I love to go back and read them, so do share.
Awesome. And before we get started, if you're not familiar with Gagandeep or her work, I'll do a quick introduction for Gagandeep. So Gagandeep Kaur is a coach empowering individuals to reprogram their mind to alter one's reality and how we choose to show up in the world.
Hi, I want to share 3 mind hacks that have been super helpful for me this year, and I wish I known them earlier. So hack number 1.
Gagandeep coaches anxious perfectionists to excel and stand in their true power. Gagandeep's journey took her to overcome overthinking, procrastinating, perfectionistic tendencies, and workaholism, something we can all relate to in the modern world. And that's something I think I can relate to as well as I go across my coaching journey as well with clients. And Gagandeep found that sometimes doing nothing can do a lot more than you think. So yeah, this is an awesome intro I got from you.
I love even the last part as you're saying it, because when I was coming to that realization that nothing is doing a lot more for me, and it was a huge realization. So I love that. Yeah. It still resonates and still makes me kind of grounded to be like, okay, am I not in my head? Just be in your body, just flow.
Yeah, and honestly, this podcast has been a journey for me about trying not to be in my head and trying to communicate from the heart. And this podcast is called Illuminating Dialogues. So it's really a space to go on a journey and to have a discussion, maybe to a place that we haven't gone before, right? And the sum is greater than the whole. So maybe come back and share the insights for ourselves as speakers, but also for the listeners. So with that being said, my first question to you is, what lights you up?
What lights me up? I would say for a good while it's been walking through nature, just really immersing myself in that present moment. And I've been trying to get comfortable with going like this, even while the people walking out. I want to absorb all of this beautiful, lush greenness and this moment. And I feel like skipping, but at the moment I haven't been able to do that. But let's see. But I really love that of just being present in nature, and it just opens my heart to look beyond my mind and everything that is in that very moment, just to appreciate of the vastness that we're all in this universe. And sometimes we get caught up in ourselves. So yeah, that's what lights me up, and meaningful conversations with friends, because sometimes I walk away and I've sat for hours and it feels like we've just spoken, but we walk away it's just like a 20-minute conversation, but it's hours have passed. And it just will feel recharged, and you say things, you realize things that you never thought of, but were always there. So yeah, I'd say those 2.
Awesome. Yeah, I so relate to that, going to nature, because when my mind is busy, and we've got the Scottish Highlands just there, 1-2 hours away. So when I go in, it's just my mind completely kind of wipes and I'm back into that reality almost, away from the programming of our mind that, was mentioned in the intro. So we'll get into, like, hopefully go deep in your coaching journey and how you've helped clients, and really about reclaiming personal power, because I think that's so important. And also for the listeners, might be maybe going through some journey of trying to reclaim their personal power, try to create space for themselves. And I think your videos and what you've done with music and also on your Instagram, it really speaks to that depth of our being and how we can come there. So just before we go into that kind of juicy information and dialogue, if I can invite you to share about your journey, how did you kind of step into coaching and coming into contact with this deeper aspect of being as well?
First, I would say I had no idea where I was going to. I had no idea I wanted to be a coach, or it just kind of like the journey unfolded like this. And I was very far from my truth or my power. I was the workaholic, like you said. And I share that because I know a lot of other people who are in that space. We're sitting in our glass tall buildings overlooking London, and I'm in that space for 15 hours a day. I'm not leaving. I'm working on weekends. If I'm doing events, then I'm still, and even if I wasn't, I was still working. I just felt like, work is important. I have to be doing this. And our to-do list are huge and we never see the end, but we're still getting there. We're still on that hamster wheel, like that metaphor of like we're on a hamster wheel. I really feel like I was the hamster because I was just going, and I call myself a grinder because I was just grinding my way of I've got to get there. I've got to get there. Okay, I missed it. Okay, this was good. Finish. Next. Okay. And we're just going on and trying to be busy. And I love a quote, and I can't remember who said it, but I hear his voice. His mother had told him, he said, just because you're doing a lot more, it doesn't mean you're getting more done. And that's really powerful because I was doing loads of stuff, and I had so much on my plate, so many products. And it was just a time where I felt, we're in that, just do work, get in the corporate world, get a promotion, get better salary, and just move on to the next job and see where you feel best in your career. And I was just stressed. I don't think I resonate with the word stress then, because I just felt it was my normal. That level was my normal. And I just came to a point like, I want to do some other stuff. I don't have enough time if I'm going to be, I don't have enough holidays, basically. And there's this one lady in our office who was sharing that she was going to take off a time of the year. And I thought, wow, I never would have thought of that. Like, I'm a busy person. Should I do this? Like, I have so many savings, but I'm not spending. I'm the saver. I don't, like, you have to always be in creating that security for yourself and that delusion that we believe into. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break. I'll take a break and I'll get back into work at the end of the year. This is just before lockdown. Okay. So lockdown happens. I don't have a job. But that 6 months, I did go traveling. But in 6 months, I visited a lot of friends, but I couldn't relax. It took me 6 months because of that stress. And I realized I'm carrying so much stress that my body has acknowledged that this is my normal way of functioning. I am in survival mode. I can't allow myself to be okay. I don't feel safe. So it took me 6 months to be like, okay, can I just calm down? Like, I'm walking around, but I feel like a zombie. I visited places, beaches, nature, everything, but I was not calm. And I felt like I'm just walking around like a zombie, basically. And after 6 months, when that stress started to slow down a little bit, or a little bit spread and ease out, all the things that I had been suppressing for about 15 years just decided to blow up and say, okay, my dear, you are now ready to do this assignment. Here you go. So that's how it started. It wasn't a choice. I just had to, it was too much for me to handle, basically. And I think when we look at our like how we handle things, we just assume, focus on the positive. Don't look at what stuff you don't like, just focus on something else, or going out and have a good time, and only focus on the things that you want in your life, not the things that you don't want, because that will take you down a horrible route. So that's what I had done. But then it blew up in my face. And then I spent a year trying to tell myself I have everything figured out, because that's who I am. I have everything figured out. I'm independent. I always get things done. I'm a straight thinker. I'm so sorted. So in that was a good battle during lockdown to be like, I'm okay, I'm not okay, I'm okay, I'm not okay. So that's when I met my coach, my therapist, who taught me a lot of the coaching tools that I now share. And it was literally divine interventions telling me with like not a push, but just like a nice gentle hand on my back saying, go here, because you're not going to go meet somebody, you're not asking for help. I need to put you in front of this person just to go and say, okay, you need to get the support you need. So that's how I met my therapist and coach, and she really helped me to really take away all these layers. And as I started my own healing journey, and it's been coming up to 3 years now, so it's ongoing. It's things that I just don't get sucked into so much now. I'm just able, and I have the tools, and that's what I want to share with people. And then when I realized that I have a choice, in the way I want to think. I have a choice in the way I want to live. I didn't think I had a choice. I just thought if my mind said I'm going to fail, okay, I shouldn't do that thing. Oh, I'm not great at speaking. Okay, I should never open my mouth. I have a horrible idea. I don't know how to share on this. I can't speak up. So every time I heard this voice, I believed it, and I just took it as my identity. This is who I am. So who am I to speak back and say something different that I don't even believe? So it was that realization that, wait a second, hey, voice, wait a second, can I say something? And that choice and that step for me to be able to say, I'm allowed to do that, was so powerful that I could say, oh, I actually can program my mind to do whatever I want and think whatever I want, because I hit so many rock bottoms, and it was dark, gloomy, lonely, horrible. And I just knew I had to keep hanging in one day. And I just didn't even know how to hang in 1 hour, just let alone a day. So it really helped me to be able to know that I can program my thinking and my thoughts in a healthy way. And when I was able to do that, I was like, oh gosh, I have to share this. Like, I'm like, I never knew about this world. Like I read a few like personal development books, but it was just information. And now I had the experience, the lived experience, and I was like, I want to share this. So that's when I got into, I was looking at what is mentoring, what is counseling, what is coaching, what are these different things. And I went to some free workshops to understand them. And I said, okay, I want to be a coach. I like this. And yeah, that's how it's just evolved from there, from that space.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think people can really relate to that whole journey. There's so many things that you shared. And I think resonated with me, like someone who does have perfectionistic tendencies and, towards anxiety as well. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this paradigm that I'm in, like you said, I'm trying to survive by collecting resources and like just trying to collect more and more and more. But actually, this whole paradigm that I'm in, it's actually, we can step out of it, and life doesn't have to be that way. But so many of us are caught up in that paradigm. And I think the way you explained it just kind of sheds light on it.
I think when, like, because we've both been in and out now, but I remember the time when I was in it, and I knew I was in a bubble. Like I just was waiting for, like, where's that door? Where do we poke this and burst this bubble? I know I want change, but I'm not doing it. It really came down to, there was a lot of things that I had emotionally held to, so it wasn't allowing me to see beyond that. So if you do feel like you're in this bubble and you're like, I want change, and I'm a perfectionist, and I really want to get out of the space I'm in, but I just feel stuck. Like I'm so stuck. And the first thing I would say, like really look into your thoughts and your feelings. Because yeah, it was, I just remember like for a long time I was stuck in that for a long time. And I did a lot of capturing of like and searching for information, and I was tired. I got to the point I was like, I'm done. I'm deleting all these saved things and all my bookmarks. Like, why do we do this? And it was that trust as well to say, I'm going to delete all of this because I saved like 100 bookmarks, 100 screenshots, 100 articles, and maybe one day it's going to help me, but I have no idea how to do it, even though the article says 10 ways how to get rid of your anxiety or 10 ways to stop getting burnt out, but it doesn't help. So it's like, what do I do with this information? It's not actionable. So this is where it really kind of how it shaped my coaching, what I do as well with coaches. With my clients is make it actionable, because I'm tired. I was so tired of collecting information, and I had to say, okay, I'm going to delete it. And I trust that the universe is going to send it back to me if I need it. If I need it, it's going to come back to me. So it was a huge thing to be like, okay, I'm deleting all of this because we're capturing and we're trying, we're so panicked about, I need this. What is everybody else doing that I'm not doing? What am I missing? What's wrong with me that everybody else is succeeding and I can't do this? And that's also very limited thinking, because we're not trusting that ourselves and that the process is the same. And a lot of times I have to say, if there's an input, the output is the same. If everybody's doing the same input, output is going to be the same. If I can do it too. I just got to trust the process. And sometimes we just got to tell ourselves that, instead of there's something wrong with me, everybody else is lucky and they can do it better.
Yeah, and it's really like that survival mindset, right? That reactive mindset, and it's kind of like two different timelines. One where you're like in that environment, wherever it may be, right? It could be corporate world, it could be a relationship dynamic, but it puts us into that survival reactive mindset. And like you said, to be a creator or to reprogram or be in that creative mindset, it's just two kind of different worlds. So, and you mentioned, like, I think we were talking before about reading lots of self-help books, and you just mentioned, like saving lots of things. So how do you help your clients shift from, going into all of these informations and really reclaiming their personal power and going from information to real transformation?
So first thing, because a lot of them come to me and they're already in that emotional turmoil. And I think it really is good to know that they are ready to let go. Like they're really ready and they've had enough and they are ready to make the action. Because a lot of times we feel like, oh yeah, this is important, but I'm not going to take the action because I'm just too scared or something. And so I think it's also important that you stick to one modality and don't try too many things, because especially if you're working with your emotions, you don't want to throw yourself off in many different ways. So when I work with them, I just specifically give them like one or two things to start off with, because they're already anxious and we need to, calm and keep that safe space for them to move through. And depending on what they've come to me with, I straight away, we look at the whole big picture, and I'm straight away into healing sessions and doing emotional processing, because I realized that I first started calling myself like a mindset coach, but then I realized I'm doing so much healing work. So I'm like, okay, I need to flip it. So I flipped all my like structure, and I end up doing like a lot of emotional processing, because we need to get rid of all this baggage that we're carrying. Because on my journey, I did it simultaneously, the mindset plus the emotional stuff. So, but now I do it emotional with my clients to just keep it easy. Because when I was doing it, it was like, I've got no choice. I'm going head in, dive in, just get out of the space. So for clients who want to take it, and we do a weekly basis, I do a lot of the emotional processing, clear out the baggage that we're carrying, the things that don't serve us, the junk, whatever you want to call it. We don't need to judge it. We don't need to criticize it. We don't need to blame anything. We're going to look at it all how it is neutrally, and you're going to release it. And then you can start to work on your mindset and shift your thought patterns. It's like we're trying to pour things in and you're not hitting it, it's because we've got so much already bubbled up inside of us. And that's what it was. It was like me trying to hold down all these emotions. I don't want to look at you. It's like trying to hold down a beach ball underwater. And it's like, it's not going to stay. It's going to fly up. So let it fly up. Let's look at it. Let's get rid of it. So yeah, it's really is that process I'm happy to. And I think I really make it easy. And I think that's what makes it um, doable because I'm doing more of it as a self therapy. So they don't need to rely on me. They don't need to rely on somebody else going forward because they have the tools and they can do it as an everyday basis. Not saying that you're never going to be sad, you're never going to be angry, you're never going to be frustrated. Yes, but it's not going to affect you as it did in the past. So it might have triggered you like a 10. You're going to work on it. It'll go like down to a 6, down to a 3, down to a 0. Something just like, okay, like, I'm sorry, what this? It doesn't affect me. I had that quite a few times this year. I'm like, this is so interesting. It doesn't affect me. And I love getting to that point.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I think like the way you explained it, like the emotions first, because I think we can almost get caught up on, especially if you're a very intellectual person. I'm coming from an engineering background, and I know a lot of my clients are as well. It's often like, okay, let's fix the mindset and move on to the next thing and the next thing. But what I've noticed is often we carry the same emotion that wants to get somewhere and just place it onto a different place. So sometimes it could be like proving ourselves or not feeling good enough, not being worthy, and just kind of shifting that. So I'm just wondering, like, what does the personal power really mean for you? And how does that play into scope with being humble almost? Because it seems that you have this power and this groundedness, but it's not coming from, like a grandiosity, but it's coming from somewhere very rooted and somewhere humble. So how do you see that working in your coaching with your clients?
So when I started to use look at like the journey that I've been on and what did I want to offer my clients, I found the perfect word would be taking back my personal power because that's what I had done. And for me, I didn't really like then I started like, okay, what does it actually mean? I know what it means, the personal word, but people who are in the personal development world, what does it mean to them? And I didn't like the Google definition. And I was like, okay, in the personal development world, it makes sense. But for me, it is because I had given over all my rights, say, to other people to judge me, to comment on me, to like me, to not like me, to love me, to not love me. So for me, it was like I was listening to so much of the outside noise and I was at their mercy and permission to every validation. So I wasn't in the picture. It's like, I know it's my life, but I'm on the sideboard and I'm just sitting here and I'm doing whatever anybody else says. And if that a thought comes up and I'm listening to that thought. So I felt like I had no power. I like, am I living my life? I felt so suffocated and I knew I wasn't living my true self. And we get to that point, like, I'm not living, there's something that is missing. I just know it, but I can't pinpoint it. And I felt like that. And I felt so annoyed and frustrated. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here, why I feel so trapped and caged in. And for me, when I started to shift the traumas and everything that I had gone through, and I started to look at the things that had a knock-on effect. So setting boundaries, speaking up for myself, sharing ideas, saying no, I'm
It's
not
a big one.
available. Saying that I choose to judge myself and I choose to like myself, and all these things they started to trickle down. I didn't realize that how it had a knock-on effect, all these things. So it was me taking back my power to say, I'm going to choose the way I think and I'm going to choose the way I want to feel. And it is right. It's not wrong. And that's the big thing because we have been programmed to feel like, okay, we got to be nice to people. And if I don't, I'm wrong. If I speak up, I'm being confrontational and that's wrong. So that was a big hurdle for me to also overcome. And so personal power really is me, finding myself and being aligned with my truth And when I use the word truth is because somebody who's told you that you're not smart, and we believe that throughout school or university or into your workplace, it's I don't want to get to the end of my life feeling that I was one day I was going into and brushing my teeth and I thought, wow, I'm living so many lies. I don't want to get to my end of my life feeling that I lived a bunch of lies
Mm.
because I'm not smart is essentially a lie. It's not my truth. I didn't come here born unsmart. I had to learn everything, but we're all capable in that space. So there's all these labels that we had attached to ourselves growing up. And I realized I don't want these labels. I'm sorry, like I'm happy to release you, take it back, or I'm just ready to let go. So that was personal power. And that's what I share with my clients is that when they come to me, they say, I don't feel confident. I feel that I'm under this pressure of my friends or family with expectations and judgment, and I have all this anger and I have all these emotions, and I feel like I'm an emotional person and I look down upon this. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I have no self-worth or self-esteem, and it's taken away these labels that they are thinking that they can never be anybody else. So that's really I'm showing them that there is inside of them, and this is just something that you might have picked up, but it's not going to define you. These labels do not define us, and we just have to stop claiming them, because a lot of people will say, this is me. I get this sometimes on I had this on a comment on a video once. It's like, I'm just this person. This is me. And I'm like, okay, if you want to be, you can be. And that's okay if somebody wants to choose that. But I've got to a place where I'm so fed up of being fed up in this place that I don't want to be anxious anymore. I don't want people to pat me on the back and say, pull you, it's okay, do some breathing, or like there's so many Facebook groups. And I was like, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be in this space. Everyone knows what to do, but we're still showing up and saying, I'm anxious. And I'm like, I want to be in a place that may fit somebody else. But for me, I'm like, I'm done. I want answers. I want how to get out of the space. So that's really how I'm sharing it with the clients is that you don't need to suffer. Like I know for a long time, I've done 15 years. And so you don't have to suffer. You don't have to make it difficult for yourself. You don't have to rush it as well. There's no, you're still going to be happy. We're still going to go through things, but take it with ease. But at least if you want to, take one step towards where you want to be. And it doesn't have to be so difficult that we're in the way that we think. And I know sometimes when you're in that emotional bubble, you're in that moment, everything feels so heavy and difficult. And it really is finding that support to be like, hold somebody's hand and let them guide them through. Because that's how I felt with my coach. And she was literally like, this is the way we're going to do. This is X, Y, Z. Let's go. And I didn't believe in myself. I just believed in her words. I could do this. And I was like, okay. And that's all I needed to hear in that moment to help me.
Wow, that's so powerful. Like in that story as you shared it, because I feel not a lot of people may even find it difficult to ask for help. Even
Yes,
that perfectionistic part.
I
Yeah.
spent a year juggling like, I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. I'm okay. I've got this. And doing the like positive thinking and like, oh, it's not working. What am I doing wrong? And that's when it was literally like universe pushing me towards meeting my coach. And I was like, okay, I could see the steps as they unfolded. Like, yes, you brought me here because I couldn't ask for help. I wasn't doing it. I've kept saying no, yes, no, and jumping like that back and forth for a year. And I didn't need to do that for a year, but I feel like there are good things about our personalities, and sometimes it's not so good. Like not asking for help is sometimes we've grown into that characteristic, but we can choose that, which areas do I want to hold that and where does it actually serve me? We can still be good leaders, we can still be great people, we can still be, have it figured out if you want to, but you can still ask for help. And that's okay.
I think that validation piece is huge as well, right? Like validating ourselves, because I think, like you said, we do lend it out to a lot of people to validate us, whether it be authorities or individuals or even like apps, right? To that we're seeking for validation. It's such a common thing. I'm just wondering, how do you find in the Punjabi society and also in the modern society, what are the key kind of themes that you see repeating over and over again, that that commonly hinders people from accessing their personal power?
I've only had, let's say, only a handful from the like Sikh background
Mm-hmm.
that kind of approached me. But I don't know if it is just one kind of community. I think it kind of it does spread across everybody in terms of we've had that belief that, just think of something good
Mm.
and just don't think of your problems and the problems will dissolve.
Mm.
And such a um it's really not helpful, basically. And it's such a wrong way, I feel, of thinking. And I don't even know why I believe that. But even and we think that, if I think positive, also that's going to dissolve out the negative.
Mm.
Yes, if you do it the right way. But if you're just pouring in and you're trying to fill up the cup that is already ready to overflow with so much emotional stuff, that is not going to sit. That's the first thing that's going to fly off. So you have to clear out the old in order to pour in the new. And I think it really does spread because it's just society, just the norm of how we've been brought up and what we've been thinking of, focus on the things you want and don't focus on the things that you don't want. But we still tend to think, oh, I don't want this. And we're still thinking, like when I ask when I ask people, I like, what do you want? And they tell me all the things that they don't want. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
but what do you want? We're so used to saying things that I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. It's like, but can you phrase that in a way that you do want? And it's so difficult for them to put that into a sentence. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I think it does kind of spread across just being the norm of how we've been brought up and what we've seen and what social media is telling us. And I remember I joined Instagram during lockdown and I was blown away. I was like, whoa, there's like so much quotes. I'm like, how can anybody not feel happy? Like get better. Like there's so many quotes, there's so many things that are just popping up every second. And it's yeah, you have to really like drill down on what you want to focus on, what you don't want to focus on, what is really helpful as well. And it comes back to the like we're searching so much information. And I really, for 1 year of my journey, I had to cut out all the noise. I
Mm.
was like, I'm sorry, can't speak to X, Y, and Z, can't be on here, can't be on that. And I'm okay to do that
Mm.
because I've taken that I need to do 80% of me and I'm going to do 20% in the external world. And that's a
Mm.
huge shift because I've been 100% external and that's all I knew.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just had a client and she was also talking about this 100%. And got to a point, and this phrase actually came up in other coaching sessions I've listened to, is being kind versus being nice. It's like, when we're overly nice or people pleasing or trying to seek validation versus actually doing things because that's our truth, like you said. And sometimes I think people find it scary to say this is my truth because they think they're being selfish. But
Ah, this
yeah,
is interesting.
it's
Yeah, because
interesting,
we're
right?
thinking about how to make it like personal power humble. And I remember
Yes.
one saying that I was giving her like a good positive statement that she
Mm.
could and see her vision. And
Mm.
she said, if I say that I'm the best, I think the word best was there. She thought it might be my ego. And
Mm.
it depends on how you want to look at it. Like if you find that word and that relationship to that word makes you feel egotistic, then change the word.
Mm.
Me, personal power, it doesn't sound like I'm not being humble. It
Mm.
is actually me being true and like get real in who I really am
Mm.
because I am seeing my true self, how as I came to be in this world and who am I supposed to be.
Mm.
And I'm to live all these labels because I've just brought in more stuff and I'm trying to live out all these identities, and that's like a waste essentially. So we're not really being true and kind to ourselves at the end of the day. So I see it as I really am being humble in terms of I'm getting back into knowing who am I? Am I really living in alignment? Am I being true in my actions and the identities and the labels that I'm carrying? So I see that as like, it's like, I don't know how to say it. It's just me being in the right place, I find. And I feel like, especially with the mindset stuff, and you have to use your words. Like, words are like wealth, words are powerful. And I specifically talk to my clients saying that, quotes are nice. We see so many quotes on Instagram and everywhere. And it's like, yes, you can save the quote and use the quote. But if it's not, if it's just, oh, that's so nice, I saved it somewhere, I'm gonna look at it someday. But if you're never gonna like reflect on it, it's just a piece of paper with words on. If you make it actionable, then it's something. So choose words and make your own quote, because words that touch you, they need to touch and speak to your mind, because your mind is saying, I'm not confident. So saying I'm confident or I'm the best sounds off, or for some people it might sound okay. They need to hear that. Like, I have a friend who goes by, who uses a status of I am nobody. And I understand that. Like, we're like how she uses it in a spiritual way. I can't use that. I wouldn't not use that, because I went through low self-worth, and that quote does not fit for me. And I can't, like, I wouldn't recommend it for, just because of my journey and my life experience. Everybody has their life experience, and nothing is right or wrong. No words are wrong. It's just how we have that relationship based on our life experience, based on our standings that we have given to that word. So if you find the word perfect, or you find the word best, or you find the word anger wrong or right, it's just based on our life experiences, and there's no right or wrong. It's just our own relationship, and you can change that relationship to anything that you want. And I found a shift, and I'm doing for particular words. Like, I think there was attitude. How would I had my relationship to that? And now I'm changing it to the word independent, because people call me independent. And I'm like, independent is like, I didn't ask for help. I just do things myself. And now I have to change that. So I'm like, okay, so how do I change and not feel off with this word? People call me that, because I don't mind if I'm called that, but now how do I want to have my relationship with that word? Because after you're shifting, you're healing, things change, your perspective changes instantly, and now it's finding that balance where you want to be. So a lot of people say, I find anger is a rude, I can't be angry, I can't say no, that is out of line for me. So when you've done that perspective shift, you've done the healing shift, you realize that, why was I never like this before? When you get to that stage, you have a new opening. It's like it was already there, but because we were so in that moment, we could not see that other side of things. So with words, there is literally nothing right or wrong. A lot of my clients say, oh, this is a silly question. Or I'm like, nope, you're going to laugh this. Nope, there's none of that. It's just how we have our relationship based on those words. So if you feel that personal power doesn't make you feel humble, you can use a different word. But it's something that you are still standing up for yourself and standing in your self-worth, however that may look like for you.
Yeah, and I think that openness is so key. Like you said, it doesn't really matter which words you use. They can be used, in different ways, the same word. But it's your connection to that word, and your connection to yourself. And I think you used a brilliant word, which was listening. Listening inside, listening to your true self, your inner GPS almost. So I also want to bring into this musical aspect, because also from a Sikh background, and listening comes up a lot. Like those who are not familiar with the Sikh tradition, in Guru Nanak was talking about suniye, which means listening.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you can speak into how is it that you start to tune into what your heart is saying or what that inner voice is saying. Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt your podcast, but if I could take the time to ask you if you could please subscribe to this channel. This would help me as I grow the channel to share the deep knowledge and wisdom of our guests, and I'd love to share that I'm offering one-to-one coaching if you want to dive deeper and know what lights you up in a safe and professional manner to do things wholeheartedly for a career you like, and to do things such as meditation, dive into your personality with certain Eastern and Western tools. And I'd love to share with you some of the testimonials I've had from previous clients. So if that floats your boat and you'd like to go slow to go far, then you can have a free strategy session with me. You can visit my website, Jhoty.com. That link should be in the description. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
That's a huge subject. So I feel like it really, when I started to like even listen to my thoughts and just be like that person of like, oh wait, can I interrupt this thought here? This little gap, can I get in here? And it really was me trying to just sitting and just observing of, because sometimes when we do, I find listening different to meditating and praying. There was one day and I was just like, I was focusing on my prayer and I thought, I'm focusing my attention on words to help me gain some wisdom, different perspective. But this isn't me like pondering. This isn't me thinking. This isn't me implementing what I know. So listening, I see is a very different space. So, oh, I did that. I did my, me time. I did my meditation. That's my me time. But where's the action time? Where is it where you're just sitting and thinking about what your thoughts are saying? Because a lot of meditations is like either you're doing a simran or you're doing a prayer or you're trying to quiet your mind. There's no listening part. It's like, don't shove things away because that's like suppressing it and telling it to, I don't see you. I know you're there, like my stress is somewhere in the background, but I just don't feel stressed. But somehow my body is showing the signs. So it's really listening is like, welcome it in. Why can't you say, hi, stress? Like, let's have a coffee and tell me why you're so stressed today. Like that conversation and just listen to what it has to say. And this is something I did with my anxiety. And I really shifted it just by listening. And that was it. I could feel it just drop from me, from my head to toe when I did that. And the whole time I was pushing it away. I was pushing that voice and the feelings away. And I realized I need to bring you in. I need to give you a hug. I need to figure out what are you trying to tell me? Because sometimes you're so loud and I feel like it's going to go through the roof and I'm shaking and everything. So once I brought it in, and when you start to listen and give that space, there's no inner conflict. I had this really like battle going on inside of me. And I realized when I was pushing away. So when we do sit with ourselves, there's a little, hey, you're seeing me, you're acknowledging what's going on inside of you. And that's what I share with my clients is that, you're acknowledging what you're trying to avoid. So with the listening, you can really hear like, okay, what am I afraid of? What am I scared about? What's going on inside of me? Why do I have this anxiety and sitting in it? Why is my stress in my shoulders or my back? Like, let's listen to your body. And maybe it's just small steps like that. Okay, listen and just really tune into that pain that you've got there. And with Geethan it's really powerful when you have that melody and that sound, because it in that the gita in that rag really speaks to the pain and the hurt that you're experiencing. So it comes like a match. That conversation can happen, the healing and the release can happen. Because if you're speaking something else and your pain is like, I'm talking about something else, it is nothing, it's not going to click. So when you have that right, that match of the emotion speaking to the pain, the right pain, what it needs, and it understands it, it feels it's understood, and it feels like, oh, you get me, then there's a release. And it's the same thing with, when we want to, with other people or with ourselves, it's like, can you acknowledge everything that's inside of you, the beautiful, the bad, the good, whatever you're labeling it as, but can you just see it and hear it, and in a non-judgmental way? So yeah, I find listening is very powerful. It's you're opening yourself up to it, your intuition as well. And that's a really cool thing, because you get to hear so much guidance, so many answers in the most unexpected ways. Like simple things it could be, but big things as well.
Yeah, and that like speaks to people and myself who are like indecisive, right? Because often we haven't taken that time to listen. Hey, what's going on here? And like you said, suppression to expression, because often we can try to overanalyze what's going on here. What's this emotion?
Yeah.
But I like how you beautifully explained that, raag, because we're going from thinking to really feeling, and it's almost like a cry for help. Something's inside an inner child, perhaps, or another protector part or a critical part, and really meeting that and saying, I see you. And I feel that also makes it better when we're speaking to others, because we can see that part in others as well. So
yeah, we do it for others. I feel like sometimes we can be a good listener to other people, and we got to do it to ourselves as well. And it really is like, I see you. But like, as humans, we just want to be acknowledged and heard and loved for. So can you do that to yourself as well? And it really, because when we're in our heads, I always found that I'm not listening. I am in that scarcity. I'm overthinking mind. When I'm in my heart space, I'm in my body, then I'm getting the intuition, then I'm getting the messages and the guidance, and then it's telling me, go here, nudge me here. And it's such a nice space to be in, because I didn't think it was ever possible. I didn't even know it existed. Like, I knew I was supposed to be in alignment, or I was supposed to be my higher self. I don't know. It just felt outside of me. And now it is what I'm trying to always connect with every day, and I am with every day. So it feels good to experience this, feel this safety, feel this experience that it was not even part of my world 3 years ago. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And you mentioned like nature at the start and that flow state almost that we're in. And it sort of feels like that's natural for us as human beings to be in, right? A natural flow state. But somehow this kind of comes out of timing or synchronization. And I like how you explained that, hey, it's actually normal to be in that flow state and there is some inner guidance happening.
I think the guidance is always there, and we've just been, career, family responsibilities kind of make us, okay, I've got to be the decider. I've got to the decisions. I've got to do everything. And we lose that connection. We're losing our connection with our bodies and our souls. So we aren't creating growth, and we aren't able to know. You have to know yourself in order to grow. So people who want to grow, we're trying to do it from our logical space, and we're not trusting that we are more than our minds. You're more than your mind. You're more than your thoughts. You're more than your emotions. You're more than your body. But you need to sit in your body to get the guidance. And I have to remind myself of this as well, that stop being in my head, because I was 100% there, and now I'm realizing to trust, because sometimes we feel like, oh yeah, it's normal, like peace, calmness. But for somebody, like I had been in anxiety for so long and stress that I forgot what did calm feel like. I lost connection with that. And some clients, they come to me like, oh, I know what calm feels like. They've experienced it. They might have just lost connection with it. But for me, it was really understanding and how do I find that calm and feel safe again. Essentially, that's what we want to do. We want to feel safe, and we're not growing because we don't feel safe. And I feel like this safety word really does come up a lot of times I'm seeing, and it has for myself. It's like we just want to feel safe. Do I feel safe? Then I can do this work. Do I feel safe? Then I can ask for help. Do I feel safe? Then I'll put my hand up and share my ideas. And we have had an experience maybe in the past that's told us we're not safe to do that. So we don't do those work. And if we don't feel safe to be calm, we're like, we have to be in stress. And you can wake up and say, I'm not going to get on that thought train that says, let's be stressed today. Everything's so stressful. Da, 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 da. Like you can say, no, that's not for me. I'm going to train myself to be calm. And even if it takes a couple of months, I'm going to be persistent. I'm going to do it. But if I feel like persistent is such a huge thing as well. In order to grow and be in that state that you want to be in, like I had a volunteer once, and none of my colleagues liked to handle, they didn't know how to handle a volunteer basically. But what I learned from him was this persistence, is that he had this persistence of what he wanted. And I realized that, and when I memorized on my journey, like his behavior, I thought, that's what I need. You be so clear, you're not going to stop until you get what you want. And that sometimes we feel like, oh, I didn't get the calmness, or I'm so stressed. Okay, I give up. Like, no, if I don't know the answer, I'm not getting the message, I'm not getting the guidance, I'm going to keep going. There's going to be a door that opens somewhere, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe in a month, maybe in 3 months. But if I'm going to keep going, I'm going to get somewhere. So I would say be persistent and don't shame away from being persistent. Sometimes we feel like, oh no, I can't do it enough times. I used to think if I didn't do it the first time, I'm a failure. So if you have more than one on your checklist, then that's good. But keep up. I would say keep going, because there's always going to be a door that opens, and you can find that state wherever you're looking for with small steps. Small steps always wins the way race.
Yeah, and I think you beautifully explained that. And there's a lot of like maybe shame sometimes that goes on when like we feel like we failed once and we don't want to continue, or there may be a belief like everything kind of will work out, so I'll have this passive effect, but in actuality sometimes we're bypassing it. So there's kind of this nuance into okay, this is what my heart really kind of desires, and I will just keep going for that. And there's this real grit and determination that I sense.
It's grit and determination, and sometimes because we listen to the old references, I call it. It's the stories from the past telling us you're a failure. You remember that time? And it felt like rubbish. I don't want the experience again. Keep me far away from it. So I'm not going to do this actions. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to share my ideas. I'm not going to ask for a promotion, whatever it is. We use those old references, but they're outdated, and you can create a new reference. You can create a new evidence for yourself that your mind will tell you. At the moment, we're still listening to this old stuff, where it's like that shame, that guilt, and embarrassment is holding us captive. And we're just copy and pasting our past into our future. That time it happened, I told you it's true. You're just like, we're predicting our future. It's like, why are you predicting it? Create a new prediction. Stop copy and pasting. And it's one of the other things I had to like, it came to me, that realization. I was like, oh, okay, I really need to stop predicting my future. It's like, you're going to fail, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be nervous, it's not going to work out, it can never work out. All of this was literally copy and pasting everything from the past, and I just repeating it, and you're thinking, why am I still in the same place? Why am I here again? And I laugh at it now, but it was frustrating at that time. And I'm glad I can laugh at it. I'm glad there's been so many things I can say. I have to go back and say, it was at that time, like I really feel for my past self, and I just
Mm.
have to love, like that's all you knew at that time. And we can do this as well. We can do a lot of judgment to our past selves, like, oh no, I was so bad at that situation, or how could I do this? We have to come out of this shame and blaming ourselves and judgment. It really does hinder growth. If you think that why you're hindering your growth, it will be definitely one of these things of
Mm.
you're just holding yourself captive. And it's like, can you just be kinder? I feel like that is really missing, is that appreciation to ourselves, is that celebration of ourselves. I did two workshops with like some social workers, and
Mm.
they didn't like this one particular task out of the whole day of tasks, and it was on appreciation, and they just
Mm.
couldn't do it. And I kind of see like, oh my gosh, I was in that situation. And when we're so stressed, you're in that 9 to 5 or working extra long hours on top of what you're supposed to be, and they find appreciation and they just like, I can't do this. It's so weird. And I feel like when you can appreciate yourself, you can at least be in your body.
Mm.
You can be a bit more kinder. Stress cannot sit if you are in appreciation. If you appreciate yourself, stress is not going to be in the same space as that. So you can try to shift that by at least seeing how, oh, I did good today in at least one thing. And it can really shift your perspective to grow more. Because when you
Mm.
appreciate yourself more, you want to do more. You trust yourself more. You're like, I maybe can do this. I don't need
Mm.
100% confidence. Even like 10%, 30% is perfect. Just having that, building that trust within ourselves. Because we're always like, oh, the other person could do it. It's just something wrong with me. And that appreciation can be that tool that can be like, you have a chance at this. Even it's 10%, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to do this. And I feel like we don't bet on ourselves. We bet on other people more than we
Mm.
bet on ourselves. And it's like, can you bet on yourself
Mm.
and do that? Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that speaks to me in such a deep level. And so many other people I'm coaching, like, can you celebrate yourself? Can you bet on yourself? Can you spend time on yourself? Because so often a lot of people, like you said, social workers can be out there giving so much to others, but having that time for themselves to actually see, okay, why is this self-doubt? Why is this fear of acceptance almost going on? And like you spoke about at the start, this beach ball, and having that time to put the beach ball aside and listen here.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we slowly begin to wrap up, I just wanted to um, ask as well, from the Guru's wisdom and understanding with this raag system, if you could speak into a bit more how the words and the rags, the musical measures, if people are not familiar but they're wanting to now listen and access this. If you can give some guidance on how people can start to listen and connect to their emotions through this modality.
Mm-hmm. So I would say at least try out, even try to listen to one of the tracks for in like Raag. You have Raj Academy, a really good YouTube channel where they got some of the meditations, and just for myself, I knew that it was a little hard because I had numbed so many of my emotions. But if you can try to find one that really resonates with you and then find that definition, you will start to put things in perspective. Like we
Mm.
can sing the same words in so many ways. And a lot of people say, oh, the Gurbani is saying the same thing, but it's not if you put it into context of the chapters that the gurus have given us. The chapters are of the emotions, of the moods, are the rags.
Mm.
So if they're in a particular context, that whole it flavors and colors this whole word into a different context. And when you can, like I was sharing earlier, of put that right words, the melody to feel the sound of that music, in the right context, it's going to speak to you in the right way. You're going to have a conversation. It's going to speak to your body cells. It's going to speak to your whole body in a relief and release way. And that's where it can happen, because if you're going to say something, listen to Geethan, and there's a lot of Geethan out there, but you want it to be effective, you want it to be therapeutic, you can make it. And this is where you can use raag Geethan to, open that door of helping you, supporting you. And I really feel like it's a self-help tool in that sense now. And every time I get too much stuck in my head, I go and listen to a Geethan, and it really does pull me out of that space and really help me to shift it. So where it was really made it easy as well. It's like you don't have to do so much. It's got the emotions plus the wisdom, which is the thinking. It literally is that. And it's putting you in the right place and opening those doors for you. And yeah, I just find it's really in that kind of safe space. You could use it as well. Like anybody can pick it up and put that into action. And you don't have to be playing Geethan. You don't have to be like an active person who you might not want to be a player. You can just be a listener. Listening, again, is huge in itself. If you are truly wanting to listen to what's inside of you and know that, okay, I'm feeling like this. What does my guru say about this? Because there's no judgment. There's no like shaming. It's all in the modes that we experience as humans. It's like, okay, what does my guru say about this feeling, and how can I get out of this? And what's that healing that I need to do? What's the perspective shift that I need to happen? And I really find when I understand the raag, the mood that it is, and then I look at the shabas underneath it, it feels like they have now come alive. They come more into context. Is more like they really come alive in terms of like, oh, they match. They make so much more sense. Otherwise, I'm just giving my own interpretation and I'm trying to figure it out. But now it's really has more guidance and instructions there. So I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying now. And then it really, there's so many rags and shabas that you'll see, and then they just like, this is perfect. Like the way they lined it up in that way. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's just amazing how these mood flavors or rags can take you into that place.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Just thank you for listening to us, and just to really support Jhoty and his channel, because there's great conversations happening here. And I look forward to reading the comments if you do choose to share. If any points that you resonate with, or you could DM and say you came through this talk, that would be also cool. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Gagandeep. It's like a pleasure to listen to your whole journey. And I'm sure people will be inspired by what you shared and to really listen to themselves and claim their personal power. Where can people find you online, or reach out if they're interested to connect?
Yes. So my Instagram is _core Gagandeep, and then _ again. And then my website is gagandeepkaur.co. They can reach me there.
Awesome. And I'll put all the links in the description as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much again. And thank you everybody for listening.